Shri Ganesha Sharada Gurubhyo Namaha Agajanana Padmarkam Gajananam Aharnisham Anekadam Tam Bhaktanam Ekadantam Upasmahe. Himavat was tell. Welcome to all for this session on Ganesha Purana to chapter 56. In the previous chapter, Himavat was explaining the story of King Chandrangada and Queen Indumati, in which King Chandrangada, who had gone for a hunting in the forest, was captured by a Rakshasa woman, and while escaping from her, he was later captured by the snake maidens and he was held captive in the Patala Loka. And later, by that time, some messengers have given the information to Indumati, who was under the impression that she lost her husband forever, and she gave away all auspicious beings, all auspicious ornaments, and great celestial clothes, and was living a very simple life of a saint. And by that time, one day, Narada came to her court and he told her, "You go back and wear all the celestial clothes and auspicious ornaments on you because you are a queen and your husband is still alive." Rejoicing the words of Narada, she gave gifts to Brahmins and uh, arranged for a celebration in her town. And then she came to Narada asking him how she can get back her husband. Then Narada told her about the same Ganesha Chathurthi Vratha, so that by performing the Vrata she can please Gajanana, and with the blessings of Gajanana her husband will return back to the town so that the husband and wife can get reunited. Himavat, the father of Parvati, was telling this story to Parvati so that Parvati also can perform a similar kind of the vrata. Himavat continued the story. After the vrata was completed, the snake maidens who are holding the king in their captivity in the underworld had a change of heart because of Ganesha's favor. They released the king and honored him according to the precept with clothes and ornaments, many jewels, and great wealth. After they had given the king a horse, swift as thought, that which can run at the speed of the thought, they sent him out, and when he had got outside of the pond and bound the horse to a large tree, because when he got out of that pond, he was almost at the outskirts of his city. So some of the townspeople saw the king while he was bathing. After they had bowed to him, some of them asked him, "Who are you? Where do you live? Where have you come from? And what is your name? Tell us, O Lord." Because they were also wondering, because they were also like queen, they were also under the assumption they lost their king. 12 years have passed in between, and they were wondering to see a man who looked similar to their king. On hearing their speech, the excellent king, pressed with exhaustion, asked after the good health of the youthful Indumati. The people then immediately recognized him, embraced him, and said, "O king, your wife has bathed and has now gone home. She has been fasting during a vrata and has become lean, a veritable mass of veins. Having adopted this kind of existence whilst being still young, she is now barely could able to be remain alive." Brothers had already gone to the city and declared the news to the beautiful woman. Once she heard from those very reliable people about arrival of the king, she became immersed in an ocean of bliss like a yogini who gains the knowledge of Parabrahma. Then she sent her ministers to him, preceded by a body of soldiers, while she had the city beautified with bright colored banners and flags. After she had diligently prepared assembly hall and sprinkled the roads, she adorned herself with jewels, ornaments, and clothes. Then she gratified the many Brahmins with cows, land, gold, and gifts, etc. And once she had put Parvati in the hand of a reputable woman, she went from the city to that lake, accompanied by singing and music. But having already left and made obeisance to the bull of kings, all the ministers in turn joyfully embraced the king and bowed down to him. And when the king sat down, they too sat down with his permission. After he had satisfied all of them in turn with inquiries about their wealth and so on, and had honored the people by giving them clothes and betel nuts, the excellent king went to Indumati's regal encampment. Then he had a ritual performed by the Brahmins due to his appearance after 12 years, because there is a ritual if husband and wife are any two close relatives, if they are separated for more than 10 years, then they need to perform a ritual of seeing. They should not see the face of each other directly. Instead, they should see the face of each other in a large plate filled with oil. In that, they should see the face, and then they can see the face of each other. That's a ritual being performed in the Indian culture. And after first worshipping Ganesha, proclaiming the day to be auspicious and appropriately honoring Shiva and the Brahmins with honorariums, etc., he broke a bilva fruit and leaving there, he went to her. Then he saw Indumati. She was like the 13th digit of the woman. So sorry, 13th digit of the moon, because on the 13th day moon would be shining so beautifully, so wonderfully. After she had made young women and their husbands wave lights around the king, she had the maidens shower him with flowers and rice grains, at the same time wiping her eyes, which were flooded with tears of joy. Full of joy and grief, these two then addressed each other, and unhindered by their grief, they spoke of the anxiety caused by their mutual separation until they were comforted by the minister's ample words. Fetching the king, they mounted him upon a huge elephant embellished with many ornaments, adorned with umbrellas and flags, resplendent with four bells, and accompanied by foot soldiers. 100 ushers were restraining it, and many warriors holding fire and swords, and mounted on horses and riding in chariots went before it. On the left and right of the king, 100,000 elephants moved easily, and in front came bards, musicians, and dancers who were dancing, singing, and playing music, while rows of elephants carefully entered the city from the rear. But the sun being covered with the dust of the troops, nothing was recognizable in that well decorated city which was without a king till now. Then after each had bowed to the other, they went to their own homes. But the chiefs were brought to the place and were again honored by the king. They went home after the king had given his authorization by means of gifts of clothes and betel nut. After he had fed the priests, he ate with his kinsmen during the night. king and the queen slept on a beautifully made bed covered with the best quilts and furnished with coverings and cushions. Yet, grieving repeatedly, they both still spoke about their distress. But when soothed by the domestic decline, they slept happily thereafter. When the excellent king heard about the power of the Vinayaka Chaturthi Vratha, he resolved himself to do everything done by his wife. And when the month of Shravana came, King Chandrangada performed this Vratha in a great festival along with the beautiful faced woman. The sage continued. After Parvati had heard her father's speech, Parvati became extremely joyful, and the month of Nabha having been reached, she diligently performed the vrata. After she had diligently constructed an image and performed the rite according to the precept, and while she was consuming a small portion of milk and meditating on Dviradhanana, Shankara's heart began to waver, and the trident bearing Shiva came himself to Parvati's hermitage. And on Ganesha's fourth, that is on the Ganesha Chathurthi, when that auspicious vrata had been completed, the goddess Parvati saw Shiva in her own hermitage mounted on a bull. After getting up, she bowed joyfully before his pair of lotus feet and honored Shiva, who is beneficent to people. According to precept, agitated by love, Parvati then spoke to Shiva. Goddess Parvati told to Shiva, how could you abandon me and leave, and why did you forget me? Even a moment separated from you was like an enormous period of time, O Lord. So I performed this vrata of Ganesha, which my father taught me, and through the boon giver's favor, now you have appeared. Brahma, who was telling this story to Vyasa, continued. At that very moment, Himavat arrived and respectfully placed the hand of Parvati into the hand of Shiva. After which the gods, including the heavenly musicians, respectfully worshipped Dviradhanana, and afterwards the two Shivas, the Shiva husband and the Shiva who is his wife, the two Shivas, they who act benignly towards the good, celestial drums sounded and showers of flower fell, and everyone praised Gajanana with various eulogies after they had bowed to him. Shiva too gratified Viradanana with words of triumph. Then, after incorporating Parvati into half of his body, because Parvati occupies the left half of the body of Shankara. This is how Shankara is considered as Ardhanarishwara, right half of his body being male, left half of his body being female, with Parvati being there. And mounting a bull, he quickly went to the peak of Kailasa, and all the gods went to their own home. Brahma, concluding this story, he told, O Vyasa, I have narrated everything which you asked about the glorification of the Ganesha Chaturthi Vratha and of Gananatha. O great sage, now I am going to tell you yet another small tale, after the hearing of which a man will be freed from all his evils and will attain his desires. Thus ends the 56th chapter of Upasana Khanda of the glorious Ganesha Purana, in which we have seen how Indumati, after performing the Ganesha Chaturthi Vrata, had pleased Gajanana, and with that the snake maidens had a change in their heart, and they their gave up their king Chandrangada and allowed him to return back to his city. And that reunited the king and the queen, and they lived happily ever after. On hearing that beautiful story, Parvati too had performed the Ganesha Chathurthi Vratha, and on the last day when the Vratha was concluding, Shiva had a wavering in his heart for Parvati, and he came to Parvati's hermitage, and the husband and wife got reunited. Namaste Sharada Devi, Kashmira Puravasini, Twamaham Prarthaye Nityam, Vidya Danancha Dehime. Goodbye.